Want is an American business to fail. I don't know how much more we're going to see for the next 3 or 4 years. Last thing I want is an American farmer to go under because us as Americans didn't want to do anything to support them.
A farm in Ohio that was funded through the Inflation Reduction Act, which Biden signed into law. And now the executive orders from Trump are rolling back all of that funding for us. So now we can no longer afford our farm. And when all that happened, it was like a lightning bolt hit my brain. And I realized that I shouldn't just be voting for myself, that Trump's policies and EOs are hurting millions of people. But it took it affecting me personally to understand what I had done was wrong. And I think it's really important for anyone to come out who voted for him and is now negatively impacted by the executive orders, or maybe you have friends or family, especially in minority communities who are being very heavily impacted by what's going on right now. So yeah, I think it's time for us to stop being so selfish maybe and to vote for what's best for the country instead of just in our tiny little bubble.
I'm a blue dot in a very red MAGA county in Texas, Midland, Texas to be exact, where our economy is basically run by the oil industry. And the oil industry is in the crapper right now. And all my neighbors who just laughed at my Harris sign and were just scoffing at it and said how bad Biden and Harris were for the oil industry are now all going bankrupt because Trump has basically made the economy just go into the garbage.
Farmers laying awake, crying at night because they're cash strapped. Look at this. Farmers and cattle ranchers are short 150,000 workers to pick crops. Fruit is rotting on the ground. No soybean deals with China, which is 60% of what they normally sell every year. Zero deals. Farm equipment. John Deere is losing millions of dollars due to tariffs. And farmers, if they have the money, are buying used equipment. Farmers who every single time vote for this administration, and every single time, this is an exact replica, but times 10 from his first term. Farmers crying at night, and many of them, I bet you, would say they'd vote for him again. Getting exactly what you voted for. And guess what? Blackstone and JD Vance are ready to come in and swoop up your bankrupt farms. MAGA farmers, I have zero sympathy for you. Zero.
How much support did they give us when they stepped into that fucking voting booth in November? How much support are they giving to people who are being snatched up off the street and being sent to other countries? How much support are they giving members of the LGBTQ plus community who are waiting on pins and needles for the Supreme Court to decide if it's going to hear the argument against Obergefell? How much support are they giving to children when they voted for someone who cut education benefits? They weren't real concerned about people having to go hungry or losing their homes or losing their access to medical care when they walked into that voting booth. Or better yet, how often have we heard them proudly cheer when there are cuts to social safety net programs like Medicaid and SNAP? Because in their mind, they don't deserve a handout. But that's exactly what they're standing up there asking for. They're asking for a fucking handout. Call it a bailout. Call it whatever you fucking want to. Okay? But their farms are failing because of their own actions. That's a handout. A bailout would be if they were losing their farms due to no fault of their own. If they want sympathy, look between shit and syphilis in the dictionary, because you ain't gonna find it here. If your hatred is greater than your desire to hang on to your family's land, you deserve whatever you fucking get.
I I mean, she ain't lying. The same people that scream to the rest of us, pull yourself up by your bootstraps, are out here asking for a government check. Y'all are okay with socialism as long as it benefits you. But for the rest of us, fuck us, right? Well, thoughts and soybeans. China purchases 60% of the world's soybeans. And y'all thought y'all president having a tariff war and a trade war with China was going to benefit y'all. Y'all are dumb. Whiteness is a hell of a drug, and racism is expensive as fuck and potentially can cost y'all farms. Have the day you voted for.
Hello guys, and welcome to the Joe Report, where we get an outsider's view with an insider's clarity. The story playing out right now in rural America is one of bitter irony. These states, many of them deep red, many of them that were chanting "Make America Great Again" the loudest, are discovering the hard truth that their loyalty to DT is costing them dearly. For years, they believed his promises, clung to his rhetoric, and dismissed every warning. But now, the bills are piling up, the jobs are drying up, and their small towns are going broke. This is the FAFO moment, and it's hitting harder than they ever imagined. Before we proceed, all credit goes to the creators of these videos. Let me play you a few more clips, and I'll come back with more commentary.
Donald Trump has backtracked, and he has essentially admitted that we need immigrants here in the United States of America. Okay, so in a press conference, this man says, y'all, racism is so expensive. This man says, basically that farmers are suffering because they don't have workers, and people in the inner city are not going to take those jobs. And we know how to dissect what he said. Essentially what he's saying is, they marketed their campaign as, oh, we're taking back our jobs, we're taking back our jobs. And they thought the legal people of color were going to go take those jobs. He essentially said the black and brown people in the inner city are not going to take those farm jobs. No.
What do you mean you didn't know? I am being so sincere right now because I truly want to understand how it is possible that in this day and age where we have access to any piece of information that we want in our hands, and we have 40 years of history that we can look back on for this individual, where a scenario exists that you legitimately wouldn't know. There have been dozens of women who have made allegations of SA that span 4 decades. There's video, pictures, audio, testimonies, flight logs. He has been held accountable in court for one of those essays. Where's the confusion? This is also an individual that has a history of conning people, not paying people. He's been in court hundreds of times over the last 4 decades. And I think he's lost about 92% of these lawsuits because he, in fact, does scam and cheat people. He has been found guilty of fraud in a court of law on 30 however many counts. Where's the confusion? Why are you not connecting that all of those things that span 40 years are the same exact person that is now in the White House right now? Where's the disconnect? And beyond that, where was the confusion about his policies? He told you what he was going to do. There's a 900-page manifesto. I know he said that, no, I don't know anything about that. But before the election, I asked, what is the difference between the policies that he's presenting and he's owning up to and the policies in Project 2025? I never got an answer because they were in fact the same. What he was saying out loud as the policies that he wanted to implement was what was in Project 2025. Yet we were told, no, that's not the case. How did you not know? I want to understand.
When the DT returned to power, rural MAGA states cheered. They thought they were voting for prosperity, for pride, for someone who spoke their language. But what they really voted for was instability. His trade wars, budget cuts, and obsession with punishing blue states have ricocheted straight back into the heart of the red counties that supported him most. And the damage isn't abstract. It's visible in empty storefronts, underfunded schools, hospitals shutting down, and farmers losing land that's been in their families for generations. Let's start with the farming sector, because this is where the pain cuts deepest. Rural MAGA America depends on agriculture. They grow soybeans, corn, wheat, pork, products that feed the country and the world. But it is endless tariffs and trade disputes with allies and rivals alike have strangled exports. Countries that once relied on American crops are now buying from Brazil, Argentina, or China's own expanding farms. That demand isn't coming back anytime soon. And farmers in Iowa, Nebraska, and Kansas are the ones paying the price. Equipment sits idle, grain bins stay full, and the same farmers who wave their MAGA hats at rallies are now lining up at the bank, begging for loans to keep the lights on. But it's not just farmers. Manufacturing towns in rural America are crumbling too. DT bragged about bringing factories back, but instead, his policies have scared off investment and worsened supply chains. Plants are shutting their doors, blaming tariffs that make raw materials more expensive and trade policies that shrink their overseas markets. And when a factory shuts down in a small town, it's not just jobs that vanish. It's diners, gas stations, schools, and entire local economies that collapse with it. Suddenly, that promise of greatness feels more like abandonment. Healthcare is another brutal piece of this puzzle. Many rural hospitals were already on life support, but with DT slashing federal funding and narrowing healthcare programs, closures have accelerated. Imagine living in a county where the nearest hospital is now over an hour away, and you're driving a sick child or an elderly parent, praying you'll make it in time. That's reality for many who voted for him, believing he'd protect their way of life. Instead, their healthcare safety nets have disappeared.
Somebody, please explain to me, who raised these people? What the fuck is wrong with them?
We are huge Trump supporters. If you didn't get the email on Monday, you're safe. And I'm like skipping down the halls, right? Like, you know, I get to stay. Wednesday, late afternoon, I received a notice that I have an appointment, a Teams appointment with my supervisor on Friday at 9 o'clock. So I knew that I wasn't safe anymore.
You were skipping down the hall. You were so excited when you thought you were safe. You knew others were suffering and gonna suffer, but you knew you were safe. You were cool with it.
Cutting costs and waste and fraud and. We love that big picture. I love that big picture. My friends, you know, we were excited about that because it is true.
I could just picture you and your friends, glasses of cheap fucking wine, just laughing over others and how others are gonna get affected.
The common theme is, you know, we voted for this. You knew this was coming, but we didn't. Like, nobody that I've talked to understood the devastation that having this administration in office would do to our lives, but other people that we love and care about too within the Mid-Ohio Valley.
There it is. It's only when you're affected that you actually feel bad about something. You don't have any regrets for everyone else. It's that you got affected. You're despicable. You're disgusting. How does it feel?
It's hard. It's wrecking.
Good.
All of this adds up to one undeniable truth. Rural MAGA states are going broke. And here's the kicker. Many of the same states already relied heavily on federal aid. They've long taken in more from Washington than they've paid in taxes. Yet, under DT, those lifelines are being cut or mismanaged. The irony is glaring. They voted for smaller government, less spending, and DT delivered at their expense. It's a cycle of regret. Town halls are filled with angry voters demanding answers. They ask why veterans programs are underfunded, why schools are struggling, why their farms can't compete, why their towns look more like ghost towns every year. But the truth is simple. This is exactly what happens when you elect a man who governs by ego instead of strategy, by division instead of solutions. The frustration is spilling out online too. Even some MAGA loyalists admit they have been duped. They thought DT was fighting for them, but now they see their livelihood slipping away. And yet, in many cases, pride stops them from admitting outright regret. They blame immigrants, liberals, or foreign countries, but deep down, the mirror is staring back at them. They made this choice. And for Black Americans, progressives, and anyone who tried to warn them, it's hard not to see the poetic justice. People told them tariffs would destroy farmers. They said cutting healthcare funding would kill hospitals, but MAGA voters brushed it off, believing DT alone could fix it. Now those warnings read like prophecy. This is the essence of FAFO. The states followed DT blindly, and now they're facing the fallout. The anger, the despair, the unpaid bills, all of it is the price of misplaced faith. And here's the most painful part. While the wealthy ride out the storm, It's the working class families, the single mothers, the veterans, and the small towns farmers who are paying the steepest price. So what's next? Do these states continue down this road, clinging to broken promises? Or do they finally reckon with the truth that DTism was never about helping them, but about exploiting their fear and loyalty? That question will define the future of rural America. The cracks are showing. MAGA states are broke, not because the world turned on them, but because they voted for policies that dismantled their own foundations. It's a tragic story, yes, but also a lesson written in real time. At the end of the day, choices have consequences, and for rural MAGA states, those consequences are staring them in the face every time they pass an abandoned store, a shattered hospital, or a for sale sign on a neighbor's farm. The American dream they thought DT was selling has turned into a nightmare they can't wake up from. So what do you all think? Will they finally admit they were wrong, or will they keep doubling down until there's nothing left? Let me know your thoughts down in the comment section. I would love to keep this discussion going. Otherwise, that's it from me. I also have a FAFO playlist, and if you enjoy such kind of content, please click up here and enjoy. Also, consider subscribing, liking and sharing because it helps me grow my channel and helps YouTube recommend this video to a wider audience. But for now, thank you so much for watching, and until the next time, the Joy Report out.